Hey, hey, hey. Time for an out of this world story from rSpace. They say travel broadens the mind. Apparently, it also exposes just how quickly someone can erase 7 years of marriage in a single spa day. Today on rSpace, this isn't your typical beach getaway. Then again, maybe it is. Wife cheated while we were on vacation. I left her there and welcomed her back with divorce papers. This is probably going to be one of the more unusual Am I the A-hole posts here, and that's probably because I already know the answer. We're both the a-hole here. And I don't have a problem with that. She went first and I responded appropriately. I'm 30 male, talking about my wife, Nicole, 29 female. 7 good years together, 4 of them married, and it meant nothing to her when she crawled into bed with a complete stranger. I don't know what inspired her to do that. We didn't have any marital problems, as far as I know. We spent a lot of time together. I mean, we were even on vacation together when it happened. Children had always been in the plan for us, and we'd actually started trying a few months ago. It was something we both really looked forward to. We planned to have 2 kids, and we'd even checked on names for both of them. That's how committed we were to our future together. While we were imagining what our lives would be like after our first kid, we came up with the idea of going on vacation. We wanted to make the most of our freedom before a baby came and tied us down for the next decade or 2. We also thought it would be a good idea to make it a group thing with 2 of our friends. Nick and Louise were pretty much our best friends, and they happened to be married. Nick and I would watch games together and hang out for drinks when we could find the time. Nicole and Louise more or less did everything together. They were like sisters. We both knew that we'd spend a lot less time with them once we had a kid, so we wanted to take one last trip together. They thought it was a good idea too, and soon we had everything booked and a whole week planned out. It was supposed to be a time for us to relax and spend time together before life got complicated. The first couple of days were great. We'd enjoy the sun and the beach during the day and have drinks at night. On the 3rd day, we switched things up a little and had separate days. The girls went off to do their own thing, and we went to do ours. That's when it happened. The girls booked a spa package together. They'd been excited about it for days and talking about how the resort offered the best massages around. Nick and I decided to rent some ATVs and ride some trails. We had a good time. It reminded me of how much I'd liked biking through the woods near my house when I was a kid. I remember making a mental note to try and get another chance to do that again. Unfortunately, I wouldn't have the opportunity. When we got back from the ATVs, they still weren't home. It was a little weird, but we didn't think much of it. We just assumed that they might have lost track of time in the gift shop or something. They got back a little later, just in time for dinner. I immediately noticed that something was off about the 2 of them. They were both quieter than usual, but Louise seemed uncomfortable too. She seemed like she was trying to shrink in on herself, and she could only meet her husband's eyes. I don't think Nick noticed anything at first. I asked how the massages were. Nicole said they were great, and Louise just nodded. I didn't bring up the awkward energy they had going on. I figured they probably had a minor argument or something. Perfectly normal. I was sure they would patch things up like they usually did. I didn't need to make things weird by pointing it out. When we got back to the room, I asked Nicole if everything was okay. She seemed surprised that I noticed and asked why I was asking. I told her that I'd noticed at dinner about her and Louise's behavior. It seemed like they'd had a fight or something. She shrugged and said they had a minor disagreement about where to go after the massages, but it wasn't a big deal. Everything would be back to normal by the next day. I remember being relieved to hear that. I didn't want anything to ruin our trip. Of course, it was already ruined. Nick was the one who told me what happened. He came over the very next morning as soon as our wives had gone off on their own adventure. One thing I've always appreciated about him is that he doesn't sugarcoat the tough things. As soon as he came around, he told me he had something to tell me. Sat me down and came right out with it. Louise said Nicole cheated on you yesterday. I felt like I was dunked in ice water. A bunch of thoughts ran through my mind at once. I immediately explained their delay and the tense atmosphere the night before, but I couldn't believe Nicole would do that to me. I didn't think it was even possible. I asked if Louise was sure about what she was saying. I reminded him that it was a really heavy accusation to make. He looked dead serious and said she was certain, and that he believed her. Then he explained what happened when they got back to their room after dinner. He said he'd also noticed that there was something off about his wife that night, and just like me, he waited until they were alone to ask her about it. He said she seemed uncomfortable, but she didn't try to hide anything. She explained that the 2 of them decided to walk along the beach after their spa session. After a few minutes, some locals came up to talk to them. It was a group of 3 guys. Louise didn't feel worried about it. She thought it was fun to interact with the local culture, and they were in a relatively crowded part of the beach. She didn't feel unsafe, so they talked with the strangers for a bit. She started getting uncomfortable when she noticed that Nicole was enjoying the attention a little too much. She went from friendly to flirty pretty quick. According to Louise, Nicole started throwing herself at them, and she couldn't manage to keep her under control. She even mentioned loudly that it was probably time for them to leave because their husbands would be waiting for them. She said Nicole seemed annoyed that Louise had mentioned that and shot her a look. According to her, that didn't seem to bother the guys a bit. One of the guys suggested going back to their place for drinks. Louise said she flat out refused and told Nicole that it was time to go. According to Louise, she rolled her eyes and said she should stop being such a mom friend and that she was just having fun. At that point, Louise decided things had gone too far. She gently tried to pull Nicole away from the guys, but she wouldn't leave. She considered dragging her away more forcefully, but Nicole had already turned to follow them before she came to a decision. Louise didn't follow. She said she didn't know what to do. She didn't want to leave Nicole alone with strange men, but she didn't want to tag along either. She considered coming back and talking to me, but she was conflicted about snitching on her friend. I was a bit annoyed to hear that she was prepared to cover up Nicole's cheating, but I had to remind myself that she'd come forward in the end, even if she had to do it through her husband. That counted for something. It would have been easy for her to pretend she didn't know anything. Nick told me that Louise waited for more than half an hour on the beach, pacing back and forth, hoping Nicole would come to her senses. She didn't. When Nicole eventually showed up again, it was obvious what she'd been up to. Nicole's hair was a mess, her outfit wasn't on straight anymore, and she looked flushed and breathless. She said she looked like she had just run a mile. Louise was disappointed. She asked if Nicole had really gone through with it. She just shrugged with a smile on her face. When Louise asked what I would think of this, Nicole just said, "We don't need to talk about this. It never happened." I just sat there, thinking about how the woman I wanted to have a kid with had just slept with a stranger, or strangers, and come back acting like it was nothing. I put my head in my hands. Nick sat beside me and put his hand on my shoulder. He said he was sorry and that Louise hadn't planned to hide it. She'd just panicked the night before and didn't know what to do. I just told him that I needed a minute. He nodded and left. I wasn't angry at either of them. Nick was just being honest with me, and Louise had done what she could do to stop her. Besides, even if she'd been able to stop her now, what about next time? It wasn't Louise's responsibility to run interference for my cheating wife. I wasn't in the mood to do anything else for the rest of the day. I was already planning to cut the trip short after the revelation. When our wives got back, I told them I would spend the rest of the day inside. I lied that I was feeling a bit under the weather and just needed some time to rest. Nicole said she would stay behind with me, while Nick and Louise went out on their own. I didn't talk to Nicole for a while. I just sat there watching her on her phone, trying to decide whether she was actually capable of cheating on me. As much as I hated it, I already knew the answer. A few minutes after they left, Nick texted me. He told me that he'd been talking some more with Louise. She told him that Nicole had called the guy she had met a few times, and she'd been texting him nonstop. I looked over at her and realized she was probably on the phone with him at that very moment. Something about that flipped a switch in me. I was furious with her. I watched her smiling at her screen and had to fight the urge to rip it from her hands and scream at her. Instead, I just waited. I got my chance to go through her phone when she took a nap. She tried to initiate sex first, and I had to remind her that I wasn't up to it. The truth is, the idea of sleeping with her less than 24 hours after she slept with another man actually turned my stomach. When I turned her down, she decided to take a nap instead. She fell asleep with her phone in her hand. I unlocked her phone and checked out her most recent messages. Sure enough, she was talking with someone saved under Ben Work, whose real name was Angelo. The moment I saw that, I felt like my life was over. At least my life as I knew it. It sounds crazy, but I was already grieving the loss of the future we wanted to build together. I just kept thinking about the child we were planning to have and how that wasn't in the cards anymore. The messages confirmed Louise's story. They also revealed that she'd been looking for another opportunity to meet up with him. They'd only met the day before, so there wasn't much to go through. I read it all pretty quickly and then took screenshots of their messages to send to myself. I wanted to wake her up right then and let her know just how badly she'd screwed up. But I didn't. I just put her phone back and pretended I didn't see anything. She woke up from her nap and asked if I was feeling better. I just told her I needed some sleep. Later in the day, she told me she wanted to walk around the resort shops for a bit. She just wanted to do a bit of sightseeing. Sure. I already knew she was lying to me, but I didn't care anymore. She dressed as cute as she could and layered on her good perfume. It was like she was trying to get caught. As soon as she left, I pulled out my laptop and booked a flight back home. I started looking for divorce attorneys in my area. If I could, I'd walk right out of the airport and straight into a lawyer's office. I didn't want to waste any time. I pulled the trigger the next morning. While she was out with Louise, I packed my stuff, got a taxi, and went down to the airport. I didn't say a thing to her about it. I just left a note on the bed that said I'd gone back home and that she should enjoy the rest of her trip. By the time I got home, she'd called me a dozen times. I didn't call her back. I had a lot to do before she got back. Ditching her in another country was just the start of it. So yeah, I'm not here to ask if I'm the a-hole. I think it's pretty obvious we both are. Update. Despite accepting that I was the a-hole in my original post, I was surprised to see a lot of people claiming I did nothing wrong. I appreciate the support, but I'd like to think the difference between me and someone like Nicole is that I can admit when I've gone too far. But that doesn't mean I regretted what I did. In fact, I'm proud of it, and I still had more in store for her. While Nicole was still out of the country, she never stopped trying to get in touch with me. It got so bad that I stopped tracking how many times she called and texted me after a while. Most of her texts were just her panicking and asking if I was okay, and if I'd really gone home. I replied early on and let her know that I was safe at home. I even sent a picture of me chilling on the couch at home as proof of life. Apart from that, I didn't reply to any of her other messages. Nick called me too. He told me that she was having a complete meltdown. She'd even shouted at some of the hotel staff asking how they could allow me to leave without her, as if that was their responsibility somehow. He asked me what I was doing, and he wanted me to tell her I told him to tell her the same thing I told her. We'd talk when she got home. Like I said in my first post, I knew I was being an a-hole too, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy the knowledge that I'd completely ruined the rest of her trip for her. I wondered if she even had a thought to spare for her vacation fling anymore. She couldn't get the ticket changed to an earlier flight, and she couldn't, or didn't, want to spend the extra money on buying an earlier ticket home, especially since I'd frozen our joint account on my lawyer's advice. By the time she got home, she met another surprise. I was there waiting for her, but all of my stuff was gone. I'll never forget the look on her face. She stopped immediately and did a double take, like she thought she'd walked into the wrong house at first. The first thing she asked was where all my stuff was. She sounded like she wanted to cry. I think she was starting to realize that I knew what she'd done. I didn't say anything. I just stood there looking at her. She walked towards me carefully. She just said, "Please tell me we're okay. Please tell me you didn't mean to scare me like that." It's funny, but that convinced me that she knew exactly what this was about. She reached out to touch me, but I pulled away. She recoiled like I'd slapped her. I told her that we needed to talk, and she cut me off. She begged me not to say what I was about to say and told me that we could work through it. Tears were coming to her eyes already. She said we didn't need to talk about it, and we could pretend it didn't happen. She'd even forgive me for abandoning her on the trip. That was rich. She'd forgive me? I asked her if she really thought what we did was equal. She sniffed and said that what she'd done wasn't as bad as I was making it out to be. She didn't bother denying the fact that she cheated. Maybe she knew I'd seen her texts, or maybe Nick or Louise had told her. Either way, she owned up to it, but she tried to make it seem like it wasn't a big deal. Her excuse was that it was an honest mistake that came from a mix of vacation excitement and alcohol. I told her to cut the crap and reminded her that Louise had been there too. Somehow the excitement hadn't caused her to jump into someone else's pants. She had an excuse for that too. She said it was different for her because she was about to undergo a huge life change. She was planning on becoming a mom, and that supposedly made all the difference. She couldn't explain how. The best she could come up with was that she felt like her youth was slipping away, and having a man who found her attractive made her feel young again. I told her that he didn't find her attractive. He was one of the guys who preyed on loose tourists. He thought she was easy, and it turned out that she was right. I reminded her that I was also going to become a parent. I was also facing a huge life change, but that didn't inspire me to go and sleep with some stranger on the beach. Funny how she was the only one who couldn't make the right decision. I told her that there was nothing that would make me spend another night in the same house as her. I'd completely lost every bit of love and respect that I'd ever had for her. I was just disappointed that I couldn't get my last surprise ready for her in time. I was filing for divorce, and I wished the paperwork could have arrived before she did. I could see the moment she realized that this wasn't a fight, that I didn't care about any of her excuses because I'd already made up my mind. She started rambling right away, begging me to think about it again. She even said, "What about our child?" which only pissed me off. It just reminded me of everything she'd thrown away for a little fun. She accused me of giving up because she made a single mistake. I told her that I saw her text and knew that she had gone to see him again the next day. Her silence told me that I was right. She said it still wasn't fair that I'd made the decision without talking to her about it first. She was certain that the two of us could have come to an understanding if we had just talked things out first. I said the only thing we could have discussed would have been deciding who would move out. I just volunteered and made it easy for her. Then I left. It was as easy as walking out, getting into my car, and driving away. After all, I'd already moved out. She followed me the whole way. her face puffy and red from crying. I didn't look back. She started calling me again while I was driving. I didn't answer, and I never called back either. In fact, I haven't called her number again since then. Every bit of direct communication we did after that involved lawyers. What can I say about the divorce? That it was good? It never is, but it could have been worse. She tried to say I stranded her overseas, but my lawyer shredded that argument. She had a return ticket, I paid a hotel room, and there was the important context of the fact that I just discovered her affair. The judge decided that I hadn't mistreated her and didn't take that into account for the ruling. The silver lining in this whole thing is that I didn't have to pay alimony. She has her own job and earns close to what I do, though her spending habits are pretty bad. I'm also lucky that we never ended up having a kid together. Dad just made the break even easier, and I'm not on the hook for child support. The weird thing is that it didn't feel good to be free of her. It sucked. I was happy when I was married, and it sucked finding out that my wife cheated. It sucked cutting her out of my life, and rebuilding sucks too. But it sucks less and less each day. I look at it like taking your medicine when you're sick. It might be bitter, but it's good for you. Acting like it never happened, pretending it was just an excitement and alcohol, even suggesting you could work through it, that's rich. She completely erased everything you both built together and thought she could charm her way out of it. Yuck. She doesn't deserve sympathy. She deserves the full weight of her own recklessness. The vacation fling, the excuses, the panic, the pleading, it's all on her. You just called her bluff and walked away. Savage? Absolutely. Deserved? 100%. What would you do in this situation? Let us know in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time.